Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
In what timeline are we together? I said, what timeline are we together?
But yeah, that was relatively painless. We've had plenty of issues, especially with what's going on with the shutdown and bandwidth being hogged and disconnected, lost things, but working good, man. I mean, yeah, yours one is probably connected faster than a lot I've seen in the last few weeks.
That is a really
jinx.
Right. Knock on whatever wood is around. I got none.
I've got a wooden desk.
Cool. Perfect.
I think this. Yeah, it's got to be wood.
Sweet.
So we are talking to. I am talking to. Not we. I have to make a disclaimer. I'm so used to saying that. Tonight, Matt won't be joining us for Undetermined the podcast. This is a special one-on-one episode. Matt is moving, so I'm sorry, ladies, if you're looking forward to his beautiful and sexy and sultry voice. He won't be joining us tonight. But I am excited to speak with the amazing, incomparable Mr. Jesse Gillen Walters, a.k.a. Basic Printer out of Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that overly that intro was just, you didn't have to do that.
No, you're good. I am I'm running out of adjectives though.
I get it. There's only a few.
Yeah. No, incomparable is a good one, I think. I got turned on to you of course through Facebook, through the internet, the algorithm, and you ran an ad campaign for your album, and I think it was something like, do you like synthy shit? And I was like, well, yes, I do. So let me check this out. But I was really impressed by what I heard. I think you had some special offer. It was just like, pay me for shipping on it or whatever, and I'll send you a autographed CD. And I was like, surely I can do a little better than that because this is a good record.
Wow.
Yeah, I really dig it, man. I like I say, it's been in my CD player in my truck, and I don't listen to a lot of CDs, but I keep some in there. But ever since I got yours, it's just been kind of locked in there, and
oh yeah,
been listening to it on my commute.
Now, did you end up getting, if you don't mind reminding me, do you just have Good Weird, or did you grab another one as well?
I just got Good Weird.
Cool.
But I've been checking out your other stuff on Bandcamp. And you just had a drop today too of the track. Yes. Just saw that a couple hours before we got on here. Yeah, it's a really good track.
Oh, thanks.
So just makes me interested though. I mean, you're probably a younger cat than I am. I don't know. I don't want to guess age.
I'll tell you. All
right, how old are you?
I am 28.
Wow. Yeah, you are much younger. But I don't see a lot of guys your age that are as much into funk and stuff that I'm hearing here. I mean, it's real refreshing. I mean, hearing some of that. So you grew up whereabouts in New York, was it?
Yes, Binghamton, New York, which the region is technically called the Southern Tier, but for the layman, it's about 3.5 hours northwest of New York City.
Okay. When did you start playing music?
I think, I'm not sure what came before the other thing, but I'm pretty sure it started like I was just at my cousin's house one day, and she had a Strat. It was a Yamaha, but it was like a Strat-esque thing. Uh-huh. And I remember just when I was like 14 years old, I just looked at it, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, I'm all of a sudden overcome with the desire to learn how to play guitar. And I bought it from her that day and took it home. And then I played, like Rush covers. And I didn't start on Rush covers.
Right, I was going to say. Yeah.
But,
Prodigy. Yeah.
After a year and a half, it was like I was playing like Primus and Rush and Real Big Fish and just kind of like fun, quirky stuff.
Mhm.
And that was like just my life was just covering, just like playing tabs for like 2 years straight. And that
Wow.
was really how it started.
So you didn't start off like, classically trained or anything like
Oh,
that? Or,
no way.
really?
No way. I haven't well, that's not accurate. I took music lessons in high school. I took a year of like music theory, and then I took a semester of music theory in college. And I don't remember that music theory class had like an auxiliary class with it, which was basically kind of like sight singing and stuff like that. So
Right.
just a very initial kind of base, but that's pretty much it.
Huh.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I mean, I would have figured you for like a key player from the get go. I mean, because that's like your main thing anyway, right? I mean, in the
It's
band, or, well,
yeah. No, it's funny because I've been playing guitar for 12 or what is it, 14? 14 years. And yeah, I'm like really not a keyboardist. I'm like a guitarist before anything, but
Huh.
I do play keys in the band setup of it. Well, kind of my main role in the band setup is I have a small keyboard and a sampler.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like an electronics vibe more than like a keys vibe.
Right.
The keyboard is there to like supplement and kind of do lead lines and things. But yeah, I am like, I don't know, it's interesting. That's kind of the vibe with a lot of what I'm doing, is that I'm sort of just applying myself to different instruments I don't really understand always, and trying to figure out what's cool about that, more than I'm trying to be deft or anything.
Right. But you're definitely picking up on, well, and I mean, it's a lot of the stuff you do in sampling and everything else that I've been listening to. I mean, it's very rhythmic, very funky. That's just surprising to me. I figured you for being like a piano kid that was
Right.
like practice every day, but
Yeah,
not the
no,
case.
I see where you're getting that. I could see where
Yeah.
anyone gets that. I've had plenty of people be like, "You play guitar? What?" And
Yeah.
or not think I play guitar on my records, but like I played all the guitars on Good Weird, for example.
Huh. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't catch that because I watched some of your live shit, and I see the backup band and everything else like that. I thought you would have just pulled them in because you didn't know what you were doing on strings or whatever. That's really cool. Huh. Huh.
Yeah.
So what's your do you still have the same old guitar? What's your gear now?
I don't know where my first guitar went, but I've settled on I have a Tele now, a Fender, and I have I have a Marshall half stack too. But
Nice.
I also have an orange amp for more, a more portable option.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty much it for guitar. I really don't overthink the guitar too much. Other than that, I have a ton of synthesizers, like big and small.
Yeah.
And drum machines and things.
So that had to be a hell of a transition anyway.
Yeah.
Going from guitar to synth. That intimidates the shit out of me anyway.
Yeah,
I don't
does it?
know. Yeah, just looking at them and all the bright lights and squares and I mean, it'd be one thing looking like an old Korg or something like that,
Mhm.
but man, everything that's going on with them now.
Right.
Just, boy, I get intimidated by the technology, I guess.
It's pretty interesting. So that's a good kind of thing to hone in on in terms of like how I've kind of gotten to where I am, which is like the junction for me was Radiohead. Like I would just go through so many different versions of their like live performances, and I felt like no matter, like I would flip to a different video and it would be like this different insane concoction of instruments. It would be like this wall, like this modular synthesizer tower, like also a drum set, and also a grand piano. And it's just like, what is happening? And that was the most interesting thing to me. Like, how can I just make all these disparate things work? So then it became intriguing for me to like look into these other instruments, like these electronic instruments, and fuse them with the guitar. And even if it was sloppy or felt random, it was like really exciting to try to get them to work together. And that's kind of how I forced myself into it.
Huh. Yeah. Just creating all those layers.
Yeah.
Everything goes like that. So when you're creating a record or you're doing kind of what you're doing now, do you just figure out how you're going to transpose that live later is it a focus on just making the music first and, we'll worry about that show, or do you do a lot of collaboration and stuff in the writing process?
No, it's really like I like to reserve the recording and the writing to that moment in that room and not think about like, oh, well, am I going to limit myself for the performance, or am I writing for a theoretical band in the future? I don't like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely the theme of this project has been like, go be so over the top and do whatever you want in the studio, and you'll find a way to perform it. And we've had so many iterations, and it's kind of great because now we have sort of a menu of options. Like I have a duo set up with like a drummer and myself and tracks. We have like a 4 or 5 person setup without tracks. We have a 3 or 4 person setup with tracks. Like it's really a fun challenge to like curate the set list to a new band, especially when you're in Nashville, where you can find really, people that can understand like, okay, you're going to be playing this. And they're like, I can do that. Yeah.
But without like a music, I mean, can you read sheet music and all that? Can you write sheet music or?
I haven't in 10 years. Could I struggle through it?
Right.
Yes.
But, when you're handing those guys those parts, it's just like, play this, da-na-na-na, or, or whatever.
Right. Key. No, I got you. No, lately it's people are pretty savvy, and it's kind of commonplace to say, hey, I've like isolated out your tracks. Here they are, and kind of have everyone interpret it as they need to. So that's really been the way.
Huh. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought you to Nashville from New York?
Yeah, it's funny. I was going through college, and I really didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated. And as we were getting close to the end, I had a friend / bandmate that had drummed in a couple of the bands I was in. And we were talking one day, and he was saying that he was going to follow one of his friends, or let me rephrase. He said he had a couple of childhood friends that like what they were going to do when college ended for all of them was they were going to find a destination and just go there.
Right.
And not like without rhyme or reason, but just the idea of like, we're going to go somewhere cool. We're going to kind of level up what we're doing and figure out how to thrive in that area and just get a move on, And that sounded super intriguing to me. And I kind of, as he was talking about this here and there, I was like, just so you know, like if you need a 4th person for that, like I got you. I don't know where you're going, but it sounds really cool. And I feel like we could keep, collaborating. It could be nice. And so basically it worked out that I kind of hopped on with them, and this friend's other friend, don't want to get too lost in the weeds, but that other friend ended up becoming the drummer of this project and a co-producer of actually this latest album, which the new single you heard today.
Yeah.
He did. So since then, it just kind of was a good fit all around, and I just enjoyed moving here and working with all of them, and then I kind of found my place and just never left.
Well, it's cool that you kind of had a squad to move along with you.
Mm-hmm.
That, I hear at least moving into those areas can be, rough for like solo artists or someone who moves in there just to make the connections. And
yes.
So you've been playing there now, for how many years? About 4 or 5 years or something like that?
Yeah, because I got here 2015, and I played my first show March of 2016, and then they never really slowed down, which is pretty cool.
Wow. What's your big venue down there? I mean, back when venues were existed.
Now, when you say like the, kind of my preferred venues,
yeah, someplace that you'd show up to a lot anyway.
Yeah, I love playing the Basement. I love playing the East Room, the 5 Spot. I played Exit In one time, which is a really big room, and that was really cool. I had one of my fans propose to their girlfriend during that show. It was like a Valentine's show.
Oh, nice.
That was really crazy, yeah. And then the High Watt is another place. So those are kind of the big ones for me. I like really love both playing and attending shows at all those spots.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not really that familiar with Nashville. I don't get down there. I'm in Missouri anyway, in central Missouri. So, back when in the before times, when we went to shows, it'd be like Kansas City or St. Louis. Columbia, where I live, college town, USA anyways, kind of halfway between Kansas City and St. Louis. Don't know if you ever, how far did you make it out, like through the country back when you were, back when we were gigging anyway?
Yeah, so I toured a few times, and kind of every time I worked a similar circuit, which was like up towards the Northeast and back. So either along the East Coast or, up through like kind of Ohio region, getting up to New York and back. So the few times I've toured, it was kind of there. I didn't really go west much. Yeah,
I hear that a lot. Is that like a tough thing to break, just like to get over the Mississippi River?
Yeah, it's just like when you're an artist of my size, the dates need to be really worthwhile. And so I'm from New York, right? So it kind of, if I could make it all the way out to New York, I would have 3 great shows in a row playing like somewhere upstate, maybe a couple upstate cities, and then New York City would be like a blowout. And then, maybe Philly would do solid. But then once I get down to like Virginia, it's kind of like, harder to draw. And you're kind of trying to work your way back for like that hometown show or whatever. So I guess just the accumulation of fans doesn't typically fall naturally kind of in that region. So it's not typical that suddenly you're like, oh, I have a great base and, the what do they call it? The bread basket.
Yeah, or the biscuit circuit or whatever region you're talking about. But it kind of seems how it works. Just, those kind of circuits. Well, and you got all the flyover country and everything. Boy, there's a whole lot of nothing when you get west of the Mississippi, and that just chews up gas and chews up hotels and
Yeah. Now, what I will say is I haven't been to Chicago region or Illinois yet, and I have probably my biggest accumulation of fans is all up in Illinois. And Minnesota.
Yeah.
I haven't been all the way over there yet.
I'm from that area. That's where I was born anyway. I'm from like northern Illinois. And I think like synthy music and shit like that was real popular when I was younger anyway. I mean, we had like the Wax Trax record label, and a lot of like industrial music and stuff came out of that. Yeah.
Very
region. But we like to dance. I'm up in there.
That's awesome.
But it's kind of interesting how that works. So how has the Facebook algorithm and stuff just reaching out that way? Because we're kind of looking into that and how it works out with like, okay, you're paying for a certain like ad base or whatever to try to get your name out there. With that being a national platform, I mean, what kind of response did you get from that, do you think?
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I say that with a caveat, which is that I am probably uncharacteristically well practiced at advertising. And, it's kind of boring to get into, but that has been a very crucial element to just being a musician. And I really like to see it as an extension of the art, which is, I'm finding the more that I treat it like that, the more successful it is. And I just think on a larger scale, as we embrace that more and see it like that, like kind of another language or just another component of kind of our art, the more harmonious the whole thing will be. I know there's a lot of anxiety about it, and it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But I think the more like good actors in that space there are, for example, the more artists that get into it and kind of learn how to really wield it and do it well, the less kind of, the more we can dilute the sort of bad actors.
Right. Well, and I think it's an interesting point to make about the element of art with it, because back in the day, 15 years ago when you were talking about, or 20 years ago when we were talking about this being the role of a record label, for example, it's like, it wasn't necessarily that at least those guys, those execs who ran those labels and everything, they didn't necessarily get it or know what they were proposing. It was just trying to make sales. So, I think when you're doing it as an artist and you're doing it indie and you're doing this kind of DIY thing, that part of image, fashion, the music, everything, it becomes more sincere.
Yeah.
I think, I think we can definitely consider that even promotion or self-promotion as an art form.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Like, just the creative control element kind of just implicitly means like, well, if the artist has all the creative control, even in the sort of business domain, the more sincere that must just be, by proxy. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, because it's not like necessarily somebody else is manufacturing you or putting a look out there, putting a sound out there and saying, we're going to take this single or we're going to take that one, or, it's all up to you. And what you decide is the banger on the album and everything else like that. So
right.
You think you've pretty much got that down? You can figure out which ones they hit?
Man, it's because there's plenty of like metrics that you can look at to kind of inform that. And you get a sense over time, like what people dig. And man, I don't feel like I have a good pulse on that.
Yeah.
And part of it is that my audience is, they're savvy and they're creative and they can handle a lot. So it just means that, they're as unpredictable as I am. So they have no clear or easy, I can't really peg them in any way. Like, I don't know what they'll love. They might love the 6-minute kind of odyssey, and they'll also love the 2-minute kind of little beat driven thing.
Right.
So,
you'd be surprised. Might not be surprised, but a lot of people we talk to, just, big selling artists and everything else who were just like, I had no idea that was going to be, the track on that record that, and if you asked me, I'd have been like, whatever, take it or leave it.
Right.
And then it turns out to be like the platinum selling hit or whatever that, defines everything they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any of those come out or come back to bite you or surprise you?
Yeah, like in a sense. Trying to think of an example. So on my EP, my debut EP, which is not technically the debut because I put out like a bunch of records before this one, but I sort of wiped the slate and then, reinitiated with this EP. And the first song on that ended up being very well liked. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But then as I kind of read the response more, I kind of saw what people might have seen in it. I thought it was a pretty challenging kind of scatterbrained whatever sort of song. I think
which track are you talking about?
It's the first track. It's called Child Grows.
Okay.
Yeah, on the EP.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just kind of threw you for a loop then. Didn't really see it coming.
Yeah. Like, well, it's interesting because a lot of the stuff I do is definitely there's some semblance of it being palatable.
Mm-hmm.
I try, like, that's actually sort of a tenet I want to abide by usually. It's not really all that fun for me to kind of just make super avant-garde random stuff because it would be, challenging or fun. It's a lot more fun for me to like kind of keep it in a lane of some kind.
Uh-huh.
So I think that does a lot. I think that opens up a lot of doors for the listener, like they're gonna be able to make it through even if it's like pretty out there at times.
Yeah. They'll be able to recognize the track when you're playing it live anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't bleed into like 85-minute soundscape.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't, dig bands who do that. I do, but in some cases. But everybody wants to hear their favorite song. That's for sure.
Yep.
So your new one though, you say you're probably not going to drop until 2021. Is that the plan?
Well, in a sense, I've dropped it a few times already. So I did a pre-order for like the merch side of things, and if you were really in tune, you were able to secure that back in May, and you got a hold of it in September, early August or so, should I say? But it's
Okay.
not, and anyone could go to my my store and grab it, and they would get to hear it. But it's not coming to streaming in full until
Oh, I see.
2021. Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 of the singles, and I think I'm going to do 6 singles. 3 of them are up now. And yeah, I think maybe February or March 2021, the whole album will be on streaming.
Oh, right on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, it's just how it's coming out on what platform, but
Yeah.
But if you've been a fan, you can get it. Well, I mean, like I say, I'm a fan, but it's not been for that long.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's about a month or so, but yeah, digging everything I hear. It's so refreshing. It's so different though, I guess, than just a lot of things I'm hearing, you know. And like I say, the music is long, you know, as well as the ad play form and everything else is just, it's sincere. And that's probably the biggest thing that I appreciate.
That's really good to hear.
About everything you're doing. I see some running themes though, and like lyrics, and sleep is one thing that you keep referring to a lot. I don't know. Is it something, is it staying out as being something significant to you, or is it something that's like just subconscious?
Wait, that's super cool. I can I first ask you where you felt like you picked up on that trend? Because that is not intentional, which is fun.
Oh, it's really not. Well, it's just like songs like Snore Captain and other songs that I hear, you know, just a few lyrics I heard in there, like Catch Me Sleeping or and I see it running in some of the other tracks. I can't really remember them offhand. But
yeah, I have a song called
theme.
Yeah, I have a song called Asleep, and then
Sleep, yeah.
I guess Headbang at the end of Good Weird, I talk about, you know, I claim to need, there's a lyric about sleeping and dreaming. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's funny. I hadn't thought about that. Well, you know, what's hysterical is that like sleep is actually one of the biggest obstacles for me. Like I have a bitch of a time sleeping.
Yeah.
And I have this whole protocol to getting to bed. And if I miss any piece of it, it could be that I'm screwed.
Disastrous. Yeah. I'm the same way. So it's like, yeah. Oh yeah. Like I'm the kind of guy, it's like, you know, hit that window where it's like, okay, if I fall asleep right now, I will get 6 hours and,
oh my God,
you know, 15 minutes of sleep. And then, you know, if I miss that window.
Oh my God, dude. You are saying this is my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same problem with it. There's certain like medications and stuff I've tried in the past. Like there was this drug anyway I was on a while back called Seroquel. And that was like, it was a good drug, but I guess it's highly habit forming. You know, I was supposed to do it. But what it did essentially was just, it was like knockout drops. It would descend you into sleep, but it wouldn't keep you asleep. But it just did the thing of like turning your brain off, right? For those like obsessive compulsive or like, you know, the cycles that you're running through in your brain over and over again, those things you try to convince yourself of or whatever to get to sleep. But yeah, like relaxation, you know, techniques, things like that never work for me.
Yeah. Dang.
Big insomnia problem.
Feel ya. Major.
Yeah. That been a problem like your whole life or?
You know, no. Not at all. It was like, it's very recent. Well, it feels recent that it's been this delicate, but maybe in the past 4 years or so, I would really, it became very emphasized, I guess I could say.
Yeah. Anxiety related, you think, or?
I don't know. As I'm sure you understand, sometimes it kind of just feels random. Like it doesn't matter what you do. Like you're awake, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess with me, sometimes in a lot of cases, I can feel very exhausted, like physically exhausted, even mentally exhausted. But then it's just it's that threshold of like falling asleep. Almost seems like a silly move. It's like you're, you know, like you're not supposed to do it, or like it's, you know, I mean, sleep is kind of a weird thing in general when you think about it, just as a human ritual and like what we do and how we do it. It's like, oh yeah, we, you know, have to just like shut down for, 10 hours out of our time and like come back and
and it's trippy to imagine, like, wait, why do I still remember the previous day? Like, why do I still have my long-term memory? It is a weird concept, like getting on the charger for 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah, like why do we have to do that at all? Just seems odd. Seems like you could just stay still and kind of accomplish the same thing.
Right.
And then dreaming even more. Yeah, we talk about this on the show quite a bit with people about like dreams.
Ooh, I love dreams.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm a very vivid dreamer.
Ooh.
At least I was for a long time. I used to be able to lucid dream. And did I wrote a research paper on it in college and everything on it and studied it and was doing like the practice, of like the kind of self-hypnotism and things that come along with lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
Then I kind of, I read a lot of information though that it's kind of bad for you. Like you don't really fall into that REM area of sleep that you need.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're kind of keeping yourself just above that in like stage 4 or stage 3 sleep, which
got it.
Gives you like physical rest, but it doesn't give you that weird sort of, that reset.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
very weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Do you have any like reoccurring dreams or anything else like that?
I don't have recurring dreams. I guess I don't try lately, but there's definitely been stretches of time where I like to catalog my dreams. And what I think is cool about them, I think people have, people like to point to them as like, oh, there's these common themes, or like there's this cosmic, interjection, or like that's this thing outside of you. And I think, less than that, I just think it's interesting that it's sort of you constructing this little vignette for yourself that has its own rhetoric. Like there's analysis to be done there, just insofar as like, well, this is you, these are your thoughts all in your own mind. So there's something to be extracted there that's relevant to you, whether or not it's necessarily like a third party or something,
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to necessarily be magical, but I mean, just the brain itself and the way that it functions and, and the subconscious is strange.
It's so strange.
It is strange. I mean, some of the things like I can't think of any like recurring dreams offhand, but some of the more interesting things I think I've noticed about my brain and dreaming sometimes is like, I'm a guitar hobbyist, I'm a living room rock star. I like to say I just, I don't play gigs or anything. I was in a band a long time ago, but one thing I've noticed sometimes I keep having these dreams wherein like I have a guitar and I understand or know every note and scale and everything on it and can play it incredibly. And like, I'm in the middle of playing, right? And then I'll wake up and for like this brief moment while I'm kind of half asleep and half awake, I can remember every scale, every note, how to play. And then it just starts to, drop off, and then just disappear.
Amazing.
And I'm like, shit, I wish I could, just in that moment, wake up and like write it down, but there's no way to hold on to it. And I wonder how much of that's really true.
Right.
Or if I actually grabbed a guitar right when I woke up, it'd just be total bullshit. And I couldn't do any of it.
Yeah. Okay. This is a funny dream that you're bringing back to me, which is, and it actually loops back to what you're talking about. When I was learning guitar, when I was like 14, 15, so first of all, I don't know if you know the band Real Big Fish.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Loved them. Still love them, honestly. But I couldn't I wanted so badly to learn like the ska upstroke, the classic guitar thing, that little chirpy offbeat thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. For some reason I couldn't get the coordination of like the muting and because it is weird to someone just learning guitar how to get the coordination. And I dreamt that Aaron Barrett from Real Big Fish taught me how to do that upstroke.
Right.
And I woke up and knew how to do it.
Wow. But you were able to like carry it on and like
wow. Yeah, and I was close, admittedly. I was close, and then I had this dream and something like knocked it loose for me.
Oh, oh, that's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about that from artists. I mean, like Paul McCartney saying that he had the lyrics like "Let It Be" come to him in a dream, and
Right.
all this thing. He had a few songs. A lot of artists have done that. Like said, "Oh yeah, came to me in a dream. Woke up. I keep my journal by my bed, and
Right.
wrote it down when I got up." That's weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it does make you think about things like and I'm not a big magical thinker myself either, but like about that. Are we tapping into something else when we sleep? Or,
Yeah.
yeah,
It feels like it sometimes.
it does. So how is this? How's the whole shutdown affecting you there? And we don't have to get into the corona details or
Right.
politics. How's everything going there for that?
It's well, for Nashville, gigs are basically not happening,
Right.
and the tourism is huge here, and they've kind of just ignored what's been going on. So the tourism industry has been just doing whatever it's been trying to do in the face of it. So that's that in terms of the city. Now, on a personal level, this year has probably been one of the best of my life, which is really strange to say, but it really it came at an interesting time, and it really conformed to kind of my natural mode of living and my patterns and stuff. And I feel like it really behooved that in an interesting way. So that's actually been pretty good.
Yeah. As far as just like writing, composing and things like that, allowing you to kind of buckle down and.
Yeah, like I think I was in the middle of finishing this record, and so all of a sudden, like all this time and all of these I got all these times, and all these distractions went away, and all these obligations of certain sorts went away, and then the whole world was online, and all of a sudden, not that it wasn't, but more squarely online as the only show in town, and that really worked in terms of the release of the record and just getting my name out there more. And it seemed like an opportune time to sort of kind of get my name out a bit more, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week with Betty X out of Austin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work, but talked about how like touring and doing shows is just such a time suck.
Exactly.
And, it's all just hurry up and wait. It's, and the show itself is just a blip on the map, she said, compared to everything you have to do to prep for it and everything you have to do to wait for it. And
yeah,
all that stuff, so.
It's exactly that. That's such a good point that they made. I think one thing this will illuminate for many bands is that touring is not, they probably had no business touring. A lot of bands tour thinking that's the way, and they're actually not ready. And it actually is a hemorrhaging kind of setback sometimes.
Uh-huh.
If they had taken those, as you're saying, those 3 months, 5 months to do something else, that would have been a lot more advancing. I think that's going to be a clear signal for a lot of bands this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, one of the things that it's had me think about, and I like to think that I went to a lot of shows, but just being a kid from the Midwest, you don't get a lot of access to a lot of shows anyway.
Right.
And it's like, how much music did I digest? How much did I consume? How much did I take into me as being part of me without ever seeing these people live?
Right.
Or if I ever did, maybe it was a one-time experience for 2 hours out of my life.
Yeah.
But then hundreds and hundreds of hours of listening to records and listening to albums and releases.
Great point.
And it's so weird how much we hang our hat on that as being kind of the definitive part of your experience with a band, right? It's like, well, I saw them live in 1998 or whatever. It's like, great. How many times did you listen to that fucking record, though? You listened to it a lot,
Right. Right.
It only had to buy it once.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that's going to, just from a kind of philosophical standpoint, think this will change the way, in a lot of ways, that we digest music? Or
I do. Or if it doesn't change it, it just illuminates what was happening in a way and already, as you're saying, and then maybe values a different structure a bit more. I think a lot of small bands or yet to even really be established bands think that the only route for progress is to tour. And I think they forget that it's exactly as you say, like a show is actually a premium, almost pie in the sky experience for fans.
Uh-huh.
And it's almost like something to aspire to and work towards, because the inputs to doing that well and to doing it for a crowd take a lot of investment and a lot of, well-placed bets. and,
Right.
And so I think if people realize like, oh, maybe a show is actually like something that you do when you've sold 1,000 records, is kind of like, I'm curious to see if people kind of have that moment.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
There's some bands that doesn't apply to as much, obviously.
Right.
A band like, a project like mine, where it's very kind of indulgent and a little niche, and there's more explanation that needs to be done. I don't think people are like waiting for the show or gonna just wander into my show, again, maybe in the middle of Illinois and just be like, oh, this is what, like, they got to know about me.
Right.
There.
Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, like from what I was seeing in like live performances and stuff, looks like a party, looks like a good time, man.
So fun.
Yeah, it looks like people who are there know what they're getting into, and they're getting into it, and having a good time. So, I mean, I could be excited about it, I'd say, if you came through Columbia, Missouri, but I don't know that, everybody else would get it without the research. I mean, I think one nice thing about the internet and exposure that way now is that people can do that. I mean, it used to be that, and some bands like to look at nostalgia and say, you used to have to buy the record and you used to have to, I think there's some advantages to being able to, Google somebody and listen to 3 or 4 tracks for free, and that sucks. That doesn't help your profit, but
right.
It helps you kind of get into the idea. It's solidified for me anyway, the experience for a few acts that I think if I would have gone in dry, I might not have gotten it, so much later.
Right.
Or,
yeah,
if I didn't have that kind of foreplay,
right.
before I ever went.
Yeah. There's some bands that are actually behooved by a little bit of context. Yeah. Whereas like just the standalone performance might be over your head, or you're not as indulged by it if you don't know when that lyric's coming or that drum fill's coming or something like that,
Yeah. And we've talked about, bands coming through too from Europe. This is another prime example, or say touring from Australia or something.
Yeah.
Might be multi-platinum selling artists in their own country, and then get here and they're playing to like a crowd of 60 on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
At a little dive bar.
Do you know the band Everything?
Not familiar with them, no.
Okay. They're a UK band, and when they tour the US, it's exactly that. Like I saw them, I mean, more proper crowd, but like, played a 500 cap room and it was half full, 250 people, which is a crowd for sure. But to me, this is like an enormous band. Like this is one of my favorite bands of all time. Right. And I get to catch them on their off tour,
right.
Opening for another band.
And you're almost pissed at everybody in the crowd, like, don't you know who you're seeing?
Yeah.
But part of it's like, oh, but this is all for me too, so that's kind of nice, So you get those feelings going. But yeah, that's weird, and it's so crazy to think about. And so many artists now are having to think on their toes with this shutdown and with these changes, and we're starting to realize, hey, a lot of the stuff that I was basing my model on is just looking at what the model has been like for years and not even thinking about it, taking it for granted or just assuming that's the way it's always going to be.
Right.
That's the one thing I wonder about is just like when this is over, say the vaccine comes out, everybody is able to, no pun intended, but wash their hands of it. Are we going to just are we going to go right back and right the ship and just say, you know, oh, yep, back to the way things were? And
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of my curious question lately. How much of just about every industry, not just music, is going to be forever altered by this?
Yeah, I wonder the same thing. I wonder like how chomping at the bit people will be for live music, and if there'll be a resurgence, a re-resurgence, should I say, or if it'll kind of be like, turned out I thought I liked going to shows, but when they were all gone, I didn't really miss them. Maybe I was going to them because other people were going, or I don't know. I wonder.
Well, it's funny you say it because just about everybody that we've talked to over the course of the summer has kind of the same fear, or the same, you know, trying to rationalize whether that's going to be the case. I can tell you anyway, from a fan perspective, we are chomping at the bit just as much. And just as much as you want to get back out there. Well, you know, maybe not so much because it's your livelihood, but man, it's a great source of distraction and entertainment for everybody too.
Yes.
And it probably as much as you want to see a new good movie,
Right.
or, you know, and how much that sucks that we don't have them. The way I would look at it too is like at the beginning of this, when people were talking about doing like drive-in shows,
Right.
and people were like, yeah, nah, just not into that. That doesn't sound good. And now it's like the more people are doing those, we're like, go on. When is this show?
Yeah.
You know, what radio station do I tune into to hear it?
Yeah.
You know, or whatever. So I think you'll be surprised by that people are really anxious to get back to live music.
Cool. I mean, I've kind of always treated shows in the way I've been talking about them, where like it's kind of a premium, once in a lifetime, every so often kind of thing, and I don't want to abuse them or overdo them and cheapen them, you know. And I think that will be re-emphasized once we're back, making sure that each one is very worthwhile, well attended, up to snuff, well practiced, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So what was your first experience, you think, with a show like that made you say, you know, as far as continuing to play live and everything, it's like, I want to do this?
Ooh, great question.
One stand out in your mind in particular? Or?
Yeah, I think I'd have like two answers. For example, when I was in college, I played in this band called Strange Appeal, and it was kind of like Black Keys, Arctic Monkeys, Strokes, Mishmash, you know, White Stripes, like that kind of modern rock, you know, collegey kind of rock. And I played lead guitar, and we would play in the basement of our singer's house on you know, every so often on weekends.
Right.
And it would just be like a sweaty, overcapacity, drunk mess. And it was like the best thing ever.
Yeah. And
that was like when I knew, like, wow, I need this, you know? Like, that is just too cathartic. Like, that is insane to be able to be a part of that. That was kind of like pre-Basic Printer, but the first show like that for Basic Printer I had was probably when I opened for this band called Bent Knee at the High Watt in Nashville, and I think it was 2017. Bent Knee is super good. They're kind of like a proggy, quirky, like metal band, I guess you could say.
Right.
And that was kind of the first time where I played a show and I had people kind of turn out in a good, you know, at a good volume, and it just, everything went perfectly. And it had been like 3 or 4 months since I played, and just, it felt so right. And it felt like, oh, I'm on, you know, I'm achieving a little bit more here with this show. And then it kind of, that was evidence of it sort of building on itself a bit more. And that was a great time for that reason.
Yeah. When you were sold, huh?
Yeah.
Basic Printer going. Is there a typical lineup you've got of go-to folks for the band, or?
Yes. The core 2 performers that I got, kind of at the ready are Aaron Walters on drums, who's again that friend of a friend I explained that I traveled down here with.
Uh-huh.
That's now just a very good friend. He drums. He actually does a lot more than that. He does a lot of the orchestrations for my recordings, and lately he's helped produce this most recent record. And then I have a guitarist, Peter Ferguson, who I actually lived with for a long time. And those two guys are typically kind of in no matter what, no matter the arrangement. Outside of them, it's kind of a rotating cast of characters on bass or synth bass or keys and things like that.
Cool. But as far as like putting the record together, you keep that kind of you're playing as much as possible, or, are you trying to maintain that as you being sort of Trent Reznor of the...
You're right. Yeah, that's a good, that's a great comparison. Yeah, like a Trent Reznor setup. Yeah, where I kind of, I'll go until I hit a wall, and then if I really need a string quartet, I know where to go. Obviously, I'm not able to do that in the way it needs to be done. And for drums, like live drums, Aaron will do that, or should I say acoustic drums in certain tracks and things.
Mm-hmm. Man, I really love that the title track too on Good Weird. Just got to say, you did that with Del Florida, right?
Yes,
DC.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah. I played with them in 2017 on a tour, and to be totally honest, I don't entirely remember the story behind that song. I just remember getting back from that tour and feeling like, man, like Leela could crush. I feel like I could just make a song that with the pure purpose of like her crushing that feature. Yeah. And I try to imagine, like, what if I made a song that was like 60% BP, 40% Del Florida? What would it sound like? And that was kind of the prompt behind that song.
Huh. Oh, well, I can see that now. Yeah. They're amazing.
Had you known them before?
I did not. Yeah, I've been falling down that rabbit hole.
It's so good.
But yeah, it's really good stuff. But good harmonies too between you guys. Yeah,
yeah.
You must not be a heavy smoker to hit those notes. I can tell you that. But
yeah, well, I don't know what my favorite is. I mean, I smoke here and there, various things.
Right.
Not often. I'm pretty clean in general, but I don't know. I have an interesting register, I think.
Yeah. It's unique. It's but yeah, it's cool to hear too that it's not just all auto tune and shit like that, but it's you. So when were vocals part of it coming up, or did you just lean on that guitar first more than anything?
On that particular song?
No, I mean just learning to play music. And you identify as a singer or guitar player first, or
it really weirdly prevalent question, because it definitely wasn't a vocals thing for a bit. My first record almost entirely is vocoder. It's not like autotune, but it's like basically a thing that allows you to take a source input and mix it with your voice. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Like Daft Punk uses it all the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was like synthesized vocals for a whole record. And in doing is what's funny is that I released that record and then I was playing sort of acoustic versions of those songs, and people were really digging my natural voice. And that was kind of what made me want to explore singing like in a more proper sense. And then it's really been a vital piece ever since. Like I've really treated that like an asset with songwriting. Yeah.
It was difficult tuning up your voice and everything like that, like not coming from a singing background.
In a way, yes. Like it didn't feel difficult, but when I'm thinking back, like a lot went into it. You know the band Incubus?
Yep.
So I loved Incubus. Was one of my favorite bands of all time, like growing up. And my family owns a pizza parlor. Mm-hmm. And so I was a pizza delivery boy for like 7 years. And I pretty much learned to sing delivering pizza and like trying to emulate Brandon Boyd.
Huh.
Like, and I would recommend that regimen to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
it worked for me because there's a lot of dynamics and yeah.
Sure. And like Wish You Were Here and stuff, just all those runs and things he's doing there. The different pitches. And yeah, that's tough. It's tough to do what he does.
Right. There's some tunes that you can do kind of out of the box, but there's plenty of challenges, and it's like it's just a good amount of reaching and settling that makes a good practice, I think.
Yeah. There's got to be some natural talent there then too, because you don't hear a lot of that, at least what you can do without training typically, I'd say. So you're blessed in that regard.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. I really dig it. But yeah, everything I've heard on the record, and besides some of those, like it's kind of funny because we've gotten around to influences without really talking about influences. And you talked about, playing with metal bands and playing with different bands. Is there a particular bill that you like to be on, or anything as far as who you play with, who you open for, or who you?
Right. It's really cool actually, because Basic Printer is definitely like a fusion kind of project.
Mm-hmm.
So I've played, like, for example, I produced this local band called Flesh Eater, and they are just like this avant-garde noise pop fucked up thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it makes total sense that I produce them. At the same time, like, I play with my friend Kate Puckett here and there, and she's like an 80s kind of diva pop person, and that makes sense. Like, I've played with jazz bands and funk bands and like indie, like trash stuff and pop. Like, what I love about this project is that it's just, it fits in a lot of weird ways with other stuff. So I really don't have a preference, but that's actually, I guess, my preference, Yeah.
No, I can hear that, because it's like, it's odd that I've been, trying to preach the gospel around to my friends of Basic Printer, and what's it like, or this, like, I find myself listing about like 20, 30 bands or so that, just keep coming. Well, it's kind of like Prince meets Dag meets, and then a list of about 20 other,
that's my dream,
noise bands or anything else. Just like, you just got to hear it. But yeah, I mean, if it was too poppy, I wouldn't listen to it. If it was too, well, I don't know, if it was too noisy, I'd probably still listen to it. I like noise.
Same.
Yeah. So you tend to fit into a lot of different categories.
Yeah, I mean, it really confuses me. It confuses me how some bands can just be so coherent and cohesive and samey.
Yeah.
Not to anyone's discredit, like, that can be, there's plenty of bands I like that don't surprise me, and I like them for that reason. But I cannot, like, that would just, I would get so bored so immediately.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when it's album after album.
Yes.
If you've got, there's some bands I think that play something that, it might be more of a cohesive sound throughout one record, and then the next record they really change it up. And not just to do that due to a trend, but that's just because they've got sort of different incarnations of music in them, I think bands like Mr. Bungle are a good example of that.
Mr. Bungle.
Yeah. I mean, like, you hear the new record, which of course isn't a new record, but it's the demo from high school, and it's all thrash. And I've heard so many people say, well, man, I kind of wanted a new Mr. Bungle, not a thrash record. I'm like, well, first of all, they've released it once already. And if you just listen record to record, they change it up every time. I don't know what
I mean, they change it up every 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah, in one track. You're like 10 different genres or whatever. So you're planning on releasing that or streaming that next year, of course. Anything else in the mix? You've been looking into like social distance shows or anything? You're just going to keep that on the back burner and adapt?
Yeah, I really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's kind of on this philosophy of like, well, I already didn't really want to do shows if they weren't the right ones. So we're kind of in the antithesis of that philosophy right now. So I anticipate waiting till it's really a lot more conventional and normal to do something cool. I mean, I think I'll find ways to be online and satisfy people regardless until then. But post album in terms of the creation, obviously it's rolling out, so I'm pretty open right now with just musical obligations. I don't have much ahead of me, so I'm just going to enter a writing phase, I think, pretty soon.
I think that's the move.
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of everybody's going for, but we'll all adapt to whatever's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we're even having to adapt to this. So another thing I didn't know, you got a podcast of your own, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I listened to an episode earlier. I was like,
which one?
I'm trying to think of what it was. It was the title of it was something to the effect of Jazz in the Age of Activism or something like that.
Right. It was my friend Elena.
Yeah, Elena Renee.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So that gave me a little taste. I listened to the majority of that, but like I said, I didn't find out about it until almost too late. It was about 7:00 the night. It was like, oh, shot. Listen to most of it though. Entertaining.
Good.
You still planning on keeping that rolling?
Yeah. I kind of resuscitated it. I had it on the back burner for this record, which was all consuming, and now I'm back to shooting. I shoot for weekly episodes. Sometimes I miss a week, but
yeah,
I should be back on that.
Now's the time, man.
Yeah,
nobody's doing anything else.
I know, right?
It's had a good, it had sort of a good effect for us because we have some people lined up forever, at least like 2 years ago. And they're like, oh man, I got a show. I can't, the whole hurry up and wait thing we're talking about.
Right.
But now it's like nobody's doing anything.
Yep. Hop on.
Coming on like 2 times.
So great.
Yeah. It's been good for us. Sucks for them, but no, it's still good for them.
Yeah.
They have a good time. And
it's been good for me.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get you out to some of our Midwestern people and get you across the river up here, man. Because I'd like to party and go to one of your shows.
Oh, yeah. I think, I have a lot, again, with just the odd success of this year, at least for me. I am emerging with some good signals for good tour dates.
Right on. How much did you tour beforehand? Like, how often would you play a show in a year?
I like to do one tour a year that's about 8 dates long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, I did one in 2017, I did one in 2018, and in 2019 I didn't really tour, but I focused in on like the local stuff, and that was really great. So I did maybe like 5 or 6 Nashville shows, and those were really fun.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely have to hit up St. Louis and Chicago.
Yes, I'm getting some signals from there for sure.
Yeah, I think you'd go over really well in St. Louis.
That's good. That's good to hear.
The kind of blues and funky element that you've got going on there.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Play out well in like Laclede or some of those clubs downtown, that area. Well, man, I don't want to keep you on all night or anything. I sure appreciate you coming on. It's been really fun to pick your brain. You have to come back on too with Matt too sometime. I know he was kind of remiss to.
Oh, okay.
Speak to you tonight, but he had so much going on.
Yeah, let me know.
So what's the best place for us to get a hold of your stuff, by the way, make purchases, etc.?
Yeah, just go to basicprinter.com. It's all there. People overthink it. You just go there. People know about Facebook and Instagram and blah, blah, blah. They'll find me there naturally. Go to the website.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll keep giving it a share. All right, man. Well,
yeah.
You've been listening to Undetermined the Podcast with Jesse Gill Walters, of course, Basic Printer out of Nashville. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.